before you came out here, we're chatting, and then Charles said something that I think is a great way to start the conversation. And it's about how you've done so many amazing things. 40 years old this year, 25 years in the media space, other milestone years, 21 years doing this. So many amazing things that you've done and you're doing. And sometimes we forget to ask people that are as accomplished as you are, how they are. So how are you? Because you've done so many things. I mean, this year alone, you've put out so many things. A couple of days ago, you were in the crossfire, things were happening. And so I want to ask you, like John, you said it, so how are you, my friend? How are you, my friend?
Right,
so really, how are you?
First thing the army boy in me wants to ask, what happened a few days ago? Because the one thing I've learned in doing media work is not to pay attention to how people receive it, so I can have peace of mind. So, and then that means that these people didn't tell me what is going on. And how are you? Some question that people don't ask me in public. So, the word that came to my mind is ebullient, which is, I don't even know the meaning of the word, but it's a sense of being carried, but joyfully. When I think of ebullient, I think of if you're on the water and you're bobbing, in the water, but it's in a good way. And that's how I feel. I don't always feel that way, but this year particularly just felt like that.
Well, Kaidi had a question I wanted to ask, so Kaidi, just go on.
So here goes my 1945. Except that this is 70 years after. Or thereabouts. So yes, your work continues to impact millions of people, Nigerians primarily, and sometimes your work leaves bad taste in the mouth of some people. So for those who have not maybe forgiven you for the work you did for former President Muhammad Buhari, in fact, someone described it as the biggest image laundering work of the 21st century, right? Do you ever look back and regret taking that brief? And perhaps you want to just tell them how you feel about it, because a lot of people somehow have not forgiven you for that.
Well, first and foremost, this was the biggest image laundering thing. And that's a good thing for the PR company that did it now. So that's a compliment, even if people don't know that it is. I actually spent some time in my book. I explained the emotional dimensions of that. But do I regret it? Of course not. How can I regret having worked on the biggest political campaign of my generation? It was one of the most important experiences of my life, and I'm very proud of the work that we did. It wasn't image laundering, but when people call it image laundering, very proud of it. It was the kind of work I wanted to do. When we started our company, I said I wanted to impact national outcomes. I wanted to galvanize young people to go out and be part of decision making. That's a different matter from if I was disappointed by how it turned out, which I was, And that's also different from the arrogance. And I didn't show it in public, because in public, I've never been the kind of person that attacks people on social media or pushes but internally I was so confident that this was going to change this country. You see this thing we are just doing, by the time we finish, poems will be written about this. And now I've learned that it's arrogant to think that you know what the future is going to bring. And I was also arrogant enough to think that people who were voting the other way did love the country maybe a bit less than me. If you really love your country, how can you not vote for this person? Now, that's why now I know that that's the other person loves the country as much as you just believe differently. So there are things about it that I would do differently. Those are internal things. They are not the external things. The external thing, I did a job I was incredibly proud of. But internally, just things that you learn. When you're quiet, you learn. I also I learned about my own ignorance of history. Because there were people who said things that came to pass. They said, how can you be saying this based on history? How can you say this? And now I understand why people were disappointed, because by that time I was a public intellectual. So people thought that I knew things. I'd written about the turning point generation, people were talking about books. So people thought, how can you not know that this happened in the past? Honestly, I didn't know. So I also realized I was ignorant of our country's history, and that of part of our country's history. And that ignorance shaped my perception of the future. Yeah? So those parts I have grown and evolved out of, but the actual thing itself, no. And also because that's also part of what it means to be a human being. To be foolish and then to grow out of foolishness, to do things and then do them better next time. And also to be hypocritical for me to not acknowledge what good that experience did for my life. When I write in my book, I'm like, people are criticizing me, yes. I remember reading something, Desmond Tutu. I read his book around one time, I described it in the book. And I said, one time when people were really criticizing, I trended for 3 days on Twitter. And it wasn't for good things. And I was feeling so self-righteous. I was reading Desmond Tutu's book, and he said, who are you not to be criticized?
Right.
And it occurred to me that, I mean, people have been criticized. Desmond Tutu was criticized, his life was at risk. MLK was shot, you know. Dorothy Day, I think, was hung. The people that have gone through, and I'm like, yes, people are criticizing me on Twitter, but I'm also getting a lot of benefits from this. We moved on to work on campaigns in Senegal, in Ghana, in Kenya, in Liberia. It's because of that, you know. I went to the Yale Fellowship. It's because of that. So it's really be hypocritical of me to sit there and be like, oh, I regret, you know, doing this. No, I'm proud of the job that we did, but I know the things I could have done better, and I understand why some people are angry at that decision. Later, it occurred to me, the way I do my work, I never see myself how people see me outside, and so people say, well, we voted for Buhari because I'm like, you vote, you know, but then. Because I don't want to see myself as more important than I am. But I had to wrestle with it. Even if it is 5,000 people, there are 5,000 young people who held every word I said as serious, you know, and they said, because of you, we're going to give this person a second look. And I guess I can take some responsibility for that. So, you know, it's taken me a few years to kind of get, this is not how I was that first time when they are abusing me is both bad, you know. But as I say, since 2021, I haven't responded to any of them. I don't even see them. But I have taken it, I have processed it, and that's how I see it now.
Are you apologizing to them?
No. There's nothing. If I swear to God, I wish I felt apologetic. I would apologize. I don't like performing apologies. You know, authenticity is one of my most important values. And I know that if I apologize, some people will feel much better. And honestly, sometimes, like I tell my mother was telling me something, you are too stubborn, you know. I don't want to say it, the way she said it, it sounds like, okay, let me say the way she said it, but it's hard to say it normally. It's like, this is too much integrity. Because I'm like, I can't lie big lies. You know, I can lie, well, how you look, oh, you're looking great. You know, I can lie, well, that was good. But it's a big lie to apologize for something I don't believe I did wrong. And I'm a person that apologizes. You know, I apologize to my team members, I apologize. But so I'm like, I continue having a good way to show people the kind of person I am by just a great apology. But honestly, I can't. And it's important because the only reason I'm doing this work, I've said to myself, because I'm a deeply introverted person, all these other things. I remember the young child who was coming out of, who felt lost in Unilag. Everybody was cool, I felt uncool and awkward. I met a young person in secondary school that was called Balogule Yobiri because I didn't have the confidence to be friends with men, so I was always friends with the female students, and the guys would mock me. And I know how painfully shy and awkward I was. And the thing that has brought me here is that I truly believe in the work I do. I love work. And it's a miracle that a shy, insecure, awkward young man could have achieved all of these things. And I feel responsible to the other shy, awkward, insecure young people who are watching me right now in secondary school and learning from me the way I learned from Fumi Yonda, the way I learned from Agatha Mata and ETC. And the one thing I want to communicate to them the most is authenticity. You know? And people can sense when you are lying. And these days in the world, there's too much performance in the media. There's too much performance in the world. I don't judge people. I understand why they have to perform. Some of my friends who have apologized, they've told me that they're just apologizing, let them leave me alone. I empathize with why they've apologized. But I feel like I'm called to a different set of people. And those people, they are so sensitive. Like, if you say you are authentic, then you better be authentic. That's why people that nobody's caring about authenticity with them. They told you we came here to perform and move. And so for me, I feel responsible to that young person who is watching and saying, if his values are consistent, that he shouldn't apologize.
So to me, bravery is a main character in your story.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, how important is bravery to you even now?
Yeah.
And to follow up on that, where did the confidence to do that come from? you've kind of said it in your work, and I guess you're going to say that. But you, Chude, the person,
Right.
had to still walk to these people. So where did the confidence for that specific action? Where did that come from?
That's so. Oof. Jennifer, you made the right decision. Jennifer that came up with the concept of this show. And she's like, there are things I think that only people in your industry will be able to ask you, and the people that you like. I think it's my mother. So let me tell you where I learned the first courage, I think. No, I think my mother, and my work, but also my mother. When I came out of secondary school, 2000, I was 15. At that time, you couldn't enter Unilag until you were 16.
Yeah.
And so all my mother's associates were saying she should. My mother is a pastor in MFM, so it's a serious pastor. And so my mother, everybody was like, swear an affidavit that you are 1 year older. Problem solved. And a lot of people were doing that. My mother said, I cannot study with a sin that you will live with for the rest of your life. You know. And so my mother said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to Unilag and find a solution. So what we did, particularly my mother, I was 15, was we were just going to professors' offices and knocking. She said, my son is really blah, 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 blah. He already got the thing, it's just the age thing. And it was one of them I thought I was going to meet the VC. So I went to the VC's office. I think that's when we discovered that there was something called a VC's exemption. We thought the young person was whatever.
Brilliant. You can say that.
Okay. So we kept going to the VC's office for days.
Wow.
So and then the secretary would just knew us and she said, one day you will see, one day you will see. And one day I think we saw him in the elevator.
Okay.
And then we spoke. He said, okay, come the next day. I don't know the other people were talking to him. And that's how 3 of us, like Lorimo, be myself, but that's how we got VC's exemption to get into Unilag. And I paid, you know, you're a small child, you're paying attention. So I'm like, so I think the courage was like, in this world, if you don't seek, you'll not find. If you don't seek, you'll not find. I learned that just watching my mother. And so that Livia joining my things was my mom.
Yeah.
My mom was the one that said,
Encouraged you.
go and give him the book. I thought she was going to go. Because my mom is also shy. So what is my mother is also shy. But I think she had also learned in this life that there's no other choice. My mother said, go and give him the book. That's how I learned. So I learned from my mother courage.
Yeah.
You know, I learned from my mother that there's no other person that will just go and do it.
Yeah.
And so I am both shy and bold at the same time. And before I used to think that you cannot be both. But of course you can be both.
Well, how do you create a legacy that you want? Because with a passion like this, you want it to continue even when you're gone.
Yeah.
But continuing means somebody needs to be another Chude. And how are you able to pass on that baton? Because I find that if I have this skill set, let's say I'm a good question asker, right? But I know that it's because it's me. If I set up a structure now that allows me make money, allows me do everything I want to do, and I've done 20 years of this, I would hate to see that build up die with me. But I also know that you can't teach this. It's in you.
Very good question. I don't care about legacy.
Okay.
That's the first thing. I actually don't. I care about what's happening when I'm here.
Right.
When I'm here now. Now, and I realize, and most of the people whose legacies we remember didn't really think about legacy. They were not carefully
curating it. Exactly.
I've learned that the best way to build legacy is to be so yourself that people cannot forget. Then many years ago, I was watching an interview that Oprah did with. I was joking with one of them. Any interview Oprah has done, I have read and watched. I'm not even joking. I'm not saying. And I hunt it down. I see one. I'll be like, how did this one escape me? And Oprah was doing an interview with Maya Angelou. It was one of the best conversations I've seen about life. So one day she called when her school in South Africa was having a scandal that nobody remembers. The scandal. She called Maya Angelou, oh my God, my legacy. And I was very shocked to hear that Oprah thought her legacy was a school. Oprah's legacy is Oprah. Oprah's legacy is that she has uplifted so many spiritual teachers, Eckhart Tolle, T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteen, Marianne Williamson, are all because of Oprah. Rachel Ray, Dr. Phil, all these people, we know them because of Oprah. When I decided that I wasn't yet ready to get married, I wasn't sure I wanted to get married. I was watching an Oprah interview where she explained why she decided she wasn't going to get married. I thought, she has a philosophical explanation for this something. That's Oprah's legacy, that she's living a life so unusual that a young person in Lagos can be like, oh my God, I want to pattern my life after this person. So that even solidified my desire not to, because I'm like, I don't know which of these things I'm doing is going to be the legacy. My own job is just to be doing these things.